Hi, in this video today, we're going to talk about successions in Argentina. The right of succession regulated by Argentina's civil and commercial code corresponds to certain family members who have the right to receive the inheritance of the family they belong to. And I'm going to explain this in very easy words. When a person dies, the most common thing is that their assets are distributed among those who are named in their will. However, when there is no will or it is declared null, a legal process known as intestate succession is initiated, in which the law determines who inherits and in what portion. This procedure, regulated by Argentina's civil and commercial code, seeks to protect the rights of legitimate heirs through a hierarchical system that assigns property to the closest relatives without taking into account the will of the deceased. So, what types of succession exist in Argentina? There are two types of successions: the testamentary succession, which applies when the deceased left a valid will. However, the law imposes limits on the freedom of disposition since the legitimate inheritance must be respected, which guarantees a minimum portion to the forced heirs, children, parents, and spouse. And the second type of succession is known as intestate. It begins when there is no will, this is invalid, or does not cover all assets. In this case, the law establishes an order of priority among family members. So, when can a will be considered null? A will can be declared totally or partially null and void if it does not comply with the legitimate requirements established by the Civil and Commercial Code of Argentina. And the most common causes of nullity include incapacity of the testator at the time of granting it by mental illness, drunkenness, or defects of form, such as a lack of signature, unsuitable witnesses, or errors in the wording. Another one is illicit content or contrary to the law, such as provisions that violate the legitimate inheritance. Another issue is consent, such as coercion, deception, or undue influence. And then testator judicially declared incapable unless he has granted the will in a proven lucid interval. So, how is the inheritance distributed in the intestate succession in Argentina? Article 2340 of the Civil and Commercial Code establishes an order of hereditary appeal. Descendants, children, grandchildren, they have absolute priority and exclude all others. Then, ascendants, which are parents and grandparents, inherit only if there are no descendants. And as for the spouses, they inherit along with descendants or ascendants, as the case may be. Collaterals, brothers, nephews, they inherit if there are no descendants, ascendants, or spouse. And finally, the government. If there are no heirs, the heritage passes to the national, provincial, or municipal government. Now, let's talk about the role of the spouses. What do they inherit? The widowed spouse has inheritance rights that vary according to the existence of other heirs. With descendants, they inherit a part equal to that of a son, but do not receive anything from half of the community property that belonged to the decedent. With ascendants, they receive half of the inheritance. Now, if there's no descendants or ascendants, they inherit the entirety of the assets. In addition, all spouses have the right to continue living in the conjugal home, even if they are not owners of the property. This right is maintained as long as there are no heirs who fight back. In addition, there are exceptions. In extremis marriage, if the deceased dies within 30 days of marriage from a deceased known to the other spouse, they do not inherit unless they have previously lived together. De facto divorce or de facto separation without reconciliation, the spouse has no right whatsoever to inherit. And finally, how is the succession process in Argentina? The succession procedure is carried out before a competent judge and follows these steps. Beginning of the trial, an heir or interested party requests the opening of the succession in the court of the decedent's last address or home. Presentation of documentation, death certificate, birth or marriage certificates, property titles, those are the normal ones. Declaration of heirs, the judge recognizes the legal heirs in intestate successions or verifies the validity of the wills in will successions. An inventory must be made and valuations as well. A detailed list of goods and their valuation is always made in every inheritance. Partition and award. The property is distributed among the heirs as established by law or will. So if you have questions about an inheritance in Argentina, contact us by WhatsApp, calling our phone numbers in the USA or in Argentina. In the US, +1 925 791 8555. And our Argentine number is +54 911 4162 0021. Or you can, of course, visit lamaris.com. Thank you. Gracias.